There are two guitar sounds you're going to want for She Will Be Loved. The first one's going to be a darker sound that you could use a neck position humbucking pickup for, and it's pretty dry. A little bit of reverb would help. And you can see I have the EQ just in the center on this amp. You want to try to not overwhelm that sound with treble or bass. And the gain, of course, is down for a cleaner sound. Maybe just a little bit of drive on the sound, but not much at all. And the presence I have in the middle as well. And then the second sound is going to be the bridge pickup. And with this sound, you're going to want to use, you can hear, it sounds a little more open. It's a brighter bridge pickup kind of sound. And I actually have a little echo on there too, so you can hear that. That's set to about a quarter note for the tempo of the song. Now I haven't really changed the amp settings. I'm just switching to a humbucking bridge pickup. You could use a single coil as well. So you just want to get a brighter sound on the chorus. There's really not that much to it. So those are the guitar tones for She Will Be Loved. This is She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5. This song's in the key of C minor in standard tuning. I have a capo on the 3rd fret. So I'll be referring to these chords both in their literal name, exactly what they are if you were to refer to a piano player, what the actual chord is, but also the chord shape that we're playing from the capo. So the first chord involved is going to look like A minor, just a basic open A minor chord. We're going to leave the 3rd string open, and that's going to make this A minor 7. Again, with the capo, we're referring to it as A minor 7 because of the shape. We're thinking of it as an open A minor form. What's actually coming out of the guitar is a C minor 7 chord. The second chord is a B flat 7. This is an actual B flat 7 chord. Although from the capo, you might think of this as a G7 shape. So I've got the first finger across what is going to feel like the 3rd fret from the capo, the literal 6th fret. I have the second finger on the literal 7th fret, or the 4th fret from the capo, and I have the 3rd finger on the literal 8th fret of the 5th string, or the, 5th fret from the capo. So that would be a B flat 7 chord, or a G7 chord. So this is C minor 7 to B flat 7, the actual chord names, or if you want to just think from the capo, that'd be A minor 7 to G7. Either way works. And so the picking pattern really is finger picked. So I'm using the bass note, I'm using the thumb to play the bass notes. And for the first chord, the A minor 7, I'm going to play the 5th string open and just pick the 2nd and 3rd string, like that. And then moving to the G7 here, I'm going to play the bass note on the 6th string with a thumb, then pick the 4th, 5th string, and the 3rd string. So again, like that. So it goes. And the next time around, you're going to do the same idea, but this time with the A minor 7 chord. You're going to pick the 1st string, and then the 2nd and 3rd. So really you're just alternating between those two chords. It's pretty simple. So you get just alternating between those two. And again, A minor 7 to G7, or the literal names C minor 7 to B flat 7. One other variation that you could do is instead of playing an open minor 7 chord, you could actually play that same chord up here at the 8th fret. This is the literal 8th fret. And I've got the 2nd finger on the 8th fret of the 6th string, the 3rd finger on the 8th fret of strings 2, 3, and 4. Same idea. So it really, it's kind of up to you whether you want to play the open version of the minor 7 or the fretted version. But ultimately, it's really just two chords for the intro and verse. So that's the intro and verse for She Will Be Loved. There's a melodic pattern that comes in on the second guitar during the second half of the first verse as well as the second verse. And I'm going to play it in time and then explain it. So it can be kind of hard to hear. It's pretty faint in the mix. And of course we have a capo on the 3rd fret, so I'm going to refer to the frets from the capo. And that's going to start with the 3rd fret on the 2nd string, the open 1st string back to the 3rd fret on the 2nd string, and then a slide from the 4th to the 5th fret on the 3rd string. And I'm going to use the 3rd finger for that so that it puts my hand in this position, so I've got my 2nd finger ready for the 4th fret afterwards. So it's going to go the first couple notes. Then you can play that 3rd fret again on an offbeat, and then in the second measure you can play the 3rd fret on the 2nd string to the 5th and 4th fret on the 3rd string, then the 3rd fret on the 2nd string to the 5th fret on the 4th string to the 4th fret on the 3rd string. So we get so that's the first half of the pattern. The second half is going to start the same way. So that's exactly the same as that first measure. And then just on offbeats, the 3rd and 4th fret. 3rd fret on the 2nd string, 4th fret on the 3rd. So you get, you just alternate 2nd, 3rd string, 2nd at the end there. So you get, so once again, slowly, it sounds like this. And of course it's got an echoey sound on it as well. It just kind of makes it sound distant. And again, it's kind of low in the mix as well, but it adds a lot to the verse. So that's the melodic pattern for She Will Be Loved. The chorus really involves 4 chords. And I will be referring to the frets from the capo for this shot because we are going to be within 3 frets of the capo the whole time. So I won't be talking about the actual fret numbers. We'll just call this the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fret. And the first chord is C major. This is just a basic C major chord. And again, this is, when you look at that, that looks like C major. I have a capo at the 3rd fret, so what we're actually talking about here is an E flat major chord. So not to be confused. So that's a C major by shape, an E flat in terms of the actual pitch. And then I'm going to keep the 4th finger down here on the 3rd fret rather, on the 1st string. So this is the 3rd fret from the capo, the 6th actual fret. That's going to be C major. And the idea with the strumming is you're going to strum all downstrokes. Very simple, kind of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and really no accents. You just want to kind of get that real even, smooth kind of sound for this. And so the next chord is going to be what would seem like a G chord. This would be a B flat chord in terms of concert. With the capo, we're thinking of a G shape. And the way I'm going to fret this, I'm going to have the 4th finger still on that 3rd fret of the 1st string, so that's not going to move. And then the 3rd finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the 6th string. I'm going to mute the 5th string by just bringing the 3rd finger down a little bit. And I'm going to add the 1st finger onto the 1st fret of the 2nd string. So you get, and that makes that technically a suspended chord. So this would be a G to a G suspended chord, or in terms of the actual concert pitch, B flat major to B flat suspended. So far we get down to A minor 7. This is an actual C minor 7, but the shape is A minor 7. Again, you can see I'm keeping that 4th finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. That's droning through all of the chords in this chorus. So for this, that same, really the same chord that we had in the intro and verse, just simply with the 4th finger down as well. So A minor 7 shape, and then back to the G, sus. Back to the C, to the G sus, to A minor 7. The second time around, we're going to get an F sus2 chord. So you can fret this one a few different ways. First thing about it is I still have that fourth finger down on the third fret of the first string, and as I mentioned, that's not leaving the whole chorus, that's going to stay down. But for this chord, I've got the first finger on the first fret of the second string, the open third string, and then I can fret the third fret on the fourth string and simply play those top four strings. Or if you can get the third fret on the fifth string as well, gives it a little more depth. And if you want to be real adventurous, you could try to get the first fret on the sixth string with the thumb. So the whole thing will sound like this. Back to C, G, A minor 7, F sus2. And that's the chorus for She Will Be Loved. For the second guitar part during the chorus, there's a very faint, almost inaudible part in the mix, but I think it really adds a lot to it, and it's just a simple, really a sort of little sus2 arpeggio here that's going to be played over all the chords. Again, the chords in the chorus are, of course, you have the C and then G7, the A minor 7, to the G, back to C, G, A minor 7 to the F sus2. Anyway, throughout all of that, on each measure you get 1. This little arpeggio, you're actually going to play it 4 times in a row for the first 4 measures. And this is the literal 8th fret. And I'm just going to give you the literal names of the frets rather than from the capo. I just think it's going to be easier for this explanation. So this is the 8th fret on the 4th string, to the 8th fret on the 3rd string, to the 6th fret on the 2nd string. So you get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you're just starting on the offbeat of 1. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You just let that hang over all the chords so that it just kind of rings out through the chords. Now, there are a couple variations. We go with that arpeggio, of course, on the first chord, which is C. You're going to play the same arpeggio over the G sus, the same arpeggio over the A minor 7, and then the same arpeggio a 4th time over the G sus again. Then it goes back to a C chord, same arpeggio again, and to G, same arpeggio. Now when it gets to the A minor 7, the second time around, there's actually a dissonant little arpeggio here that happens like this. This is sort of like, if you're thinking of this as an A minor 7, this would actually be like an F major 7 arpeggio. So technically there's a little bit of a wrong note in there, having this note against the A minor 7, but really that's one of the best parts of the song, I think. It just has a really, really cool sound ringing against that minor chord. So this is the literal 6th fret of the 4th string to the 8th fret on strings 3 and 2. So you get, and when it goes to the F sus2 chord, you're going to move up to the 8th fret on strings 4 and 3, and then the 9th fret on the 2nd string. So the whole part will sound like this. You kind of have to imagine the chords in the background, but it's 1. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1. 2 more times. And now the major 7. Back to the, again. And it's just one of those parts that's so minimal and so soft in the background you almost don't hear it, but it's actually a very cool detail. So that's guitar 2 chorus for She Will Be Loved. There's a small part during the chorus that actually adds a lot, and it's really accenting beats 2 and the offbeat after beat 3 and 4 on all the chords in the chorus. So if I'm counting eighth notes, it'll sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So again, that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And we're going to repeat that pattern through all the chords. It actually just kind of keeps repeating. So a repeating pattern is technically called an ostinato, so that would be an good example. And I've got my third and fourth finger, as you can see, at the third fret on strings 2 and 1. And I'm just picking the first string down to the second string on beat 2. So that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just simply picking that first string on off beats after 3 and 4. And you're going to play that exact pattern 2 times, and then simply move the note on the second string down to the first fret. So it'll look like that. And you're going to play the same thing 2 times. So you just keep repeating that. It'll sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. It's a simple part, but it lasts through all the chords of the chorus. And that's the chorus ostinato for She Will Be Loved. For the bridge, there's really one guitar part. It's very keyboard oriented, and the chords themselves are just pretty basic. It's really just in a literal C minor chord, and again, of course, we're sort of calling that A minor 7 with the capo. It's truly a C minor 7 chord. But for this part, I'm going to explain this from the true fret numbers here, rather than counting up from the capo, because we're pretty high up on the fretboard. And so this first chord is going to be a C minor 9 chord. I've got my first finger barred across the 8th fret of strings 1, 2, and 3, and the 4th finger is actually playing the 12th fret on the 4th string. If that's too much of a stretch, or if that seems pretty difficult, it's really not that big of a deal. You could just play a regular C minor, but the 9 there sounds pretty cool. Down to a B flat 7, and so for this chord I'm just playing that basic F shape chord. First finger's across the 6th fret of strings 1 and 2. I have my second finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string, and I have my 3rd finger on the 8th fret of the 4th string, and I'm going to add the 4th finger on the 7th here. That's the 9th fret. When I say 7th, I mean the 7th of the chord. So you get the C minor 9 to B flat. Just kind of a easy 8th note strum, really nothing to it. 1 measure apiece. The second couple times around, you're going to change the inversion of the chord. So this is sort of a new C minor 7 here. My first finger's at the 10th fret of the 4th string. My 4th finger's on the 12th fret of the 3rd string. My second finger's on the 11th fret of the 2nd string. My 3rd finger's on the 11th fret of the 1st string. So that's a C minor 7, then to a B flat 7, where my first finger's on the 8th fret of the 4th string, my 3rd finger's on the 10th fret of the 3rd string, my 2nd finger's on the 9th fret of the 2nd string, my 4th finger is on the 10th fret of the 1st string. So that's B flat 7. So you get. Then we go down to this chord. This would, again, be technically an A flat sus2 chord. With the capo, you might think of this as an F sus2 shape. But of course, we've seen that chord in the chorus. So the whole bridge. And that's the bridge for She Will Be Loved. There's some very simple slide fills or leads that happen on the outro during the chorus progression on the outro. And I'm just going to play them in time. They're basically whole notes and then explain it. So we get. So that starts, and I'm going to refer to the literal frets here for the slide. I'm starting on the 2nd string, sliding into the 8th fret on the 2nd string. And if you're not familiar with slide guitar, this is actually probably a good little one to start with because it's fairly simple. And the basic idea of slide guitar is that some people put the slide on their 4th or 3rd or even 2nd finger. That's sort of academic. If you want to fret chords, it's probably best to put it on your 4th finger or maybe your 3rd. But the main thing about slide guitar that beginners might not realize is that you actually want to be right over the fret themselves. So when you fret a note, normally you would push down at the wood, and the string connects to the metal fret. With a slide, since you're not actually pushing the string in, to be in tune there at the 8th fret, what I want to actually do is be directly over the fret itself. And another real important thing about slide guitar is most slide guitar players wouldn't play and just hold it like that. There's a little bit of vibrato, or sometimes a lot of vibrato, that comes in with most slide parts. And you can see I'm just basically moving that side to side evenly to get that vibrato sound. And one important thing also is to not hold the slide too much like this or like this at some angle. Try to keep it pretty vertical with the fretboard so that it's really over the fret itself. And of course, the other angle would be like this. You want to try to make sure that it's right down against the strings, otherwise you're going to get some extra noise and stuff. So it's real even flat with the fretboard. With the right hand, this is where maybe the most critical part of slide playing comes in, where you're actually muting strings that you're not playing. So as I'm playing the 2nd string here, the most important thing to be aware of there is that my thumb is muting strings 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm actually laying flat across those. So I get, and then I have my 2nd finger, in this case, muting the 1st string. So even if I bump other strings, you won't hear the notes. So anyhow, the 1st note is the 8th fret on the 2nd string, and then up to the 13th fret on the 1st string, and again, right over the fret. You can see my thumb muting strings 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then down to the 13th fret on the 2nd string. And for this one, you really hold that note for 2 full measures, so it's sort of a double whole note. So far, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then up to the 15th fret on the 1st string, 16th fret, 18th fret, back to the 16th fret, and finally ending on the 11th fret of the 1st string. And that's the outro slide guitar for She Will Be Loved. There's an outro part that comes in, and it's sort of subtle, and it comes in after the drum stop on the very end of the outro, and it sounds like this. And it's pretty simple. I'm just holding a few chords and letting the notes kind of blend together. And so I'm going to refer to the fret numbers from the capo. Of course, I have a capo on the 3rd fret. So I'm going to set my 3rd finger on the 4th fret, or actually, sorry, the 5th fret from the capo on the 3rd string, and the 5th fret from the capo on the 2nd string with the 4th finger. So I'm going to pick the 2nd string, then the 3rd string, then the open 1st string, and then bringing my 1st finger down to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. So it goes. So you have to lift that 4th finger off. The next measure is going to look like a little F chord shape, brought up to the 3rd fret. So my 1st finger's at the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, my 2nd finger's on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and my 3rd finger's on the 5th fret of the 4th string. So that's going to sound like, you just hold the notes together and just pick from the 4th to the 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 4th string. So it goes. And then slide up to the 7th fret on the 4th string, then the 5th fret on the 3rd, 7th fret on the 4th, then the 5th fret on the 2nd string. So get. So that's that little minor chord shape there. And the very end of it is really the same thing, but you're going to add the 2nd finger onto the 6th fret of the 2nd string. So good. And so the whole part again will sound like this slowly. And that's the outro for She Will Be Loved. This is the performance of She Will Be Loved.
It's not